So, but I would love to say that switching over or transitioning to learning how to use a new line, having a limited palette helped me learn the different nuances of each of the colors that I was using. And then I could do a tiny tweak here or there on the same type of skin tone or the same, skin type, and learn from that as well. So I did. Can I show you my limited palette that I tend to reach for even now that I'm used to using the colors?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. So I found that you definitely need something in the light, medium, and deeper tones of any brow colors that you're using.
Right.
So I tend to reach for in Li Aqua, which is the inorganics. I tend to reach for taupe as my lightest color. I like classic brown as my medium color.
I just used classic brown today, but I added a little beautiful blonde to it because she was older and I thought she might ash classic brown out a skosh, so I added a little beautiful blonde.
A little beautiful blonde.
Oh, that's my favorite combo. Like I could probably do just about everybody with some combination of classic brown and beautiful blonde, right?
I can see that.
Unless they're gray haired, then I'm going to reach for taupe.
Yeah, exactly. And then I really like, for my darkest color, I like dark toffee. That's the one that I always reach for.
Yeah. I'm a dark toffee girl or ebony brown when I have to get really dark. I've never been a Navajo user. Like Navajo.
Yeah, I don't know why either.
It's super popular. It's one of our most top selling colors. You see artists all over the boards loving Navajo. And I've used it here and there, but it's not one of my core colors. Dark toffee and ebony brown is. But I agree with you, Michelle. It's like, as artists, we don't need 20 brow colors. Do you know?
It's a light, a medium, or a dark brown.
And then you mix.
Which one you want?
Yeah. And I think you do need something for, a redhead.
Oh, yeah. A hazelnut.
Yeah. And something for your gray haired, white haired ladies, like a taupe. And and those are kind of like your bookend, for redheads and taupes. And then in the middle, you're right, like, a light for blonde, a medium dark, and then a dark. So my core colors, I have about 7 colors, and I put them together in a kit on the store. But I agree, the smaller our palette, you learn those colors individually, what each one does straight out of the bottle on all the different skin types. And then you learn, these little custom mixes, Yeah.
Yep. A drop here, a drop there.
Oh, yeah. Like if I don't need to go quite to classic brown, I'll take hazelnut and I'll add some classic brown to, deepen it up a little bit. But, and I love mixing, but, unfortunately, I think today you see with a lot of the young artists, they don't want anything too complicated. They don't want to mix. They don't want to learn color theory, not all, of course, but a lot. They just want things super easy, ready-made. And unfortunately, they picked a profession. It just doesn't work like that.
Right. Right. That's like people who want to be permanent makeup artists, but don't can't handle causing pain. Like, you're going to cause some pain.
Yeah, right.
You're going to get used to that.
Right. You're going to cause some pain. Or if you don't like blood, it's like you picked the wrong profession. You're going to see some blood. But maybe that's how this whole I didn't cause blood, trend started, because that's another whole trend that you're seeing on Instagram. Like, I don't get blood. It shouldn't bleed. It shouldn't bruise. I'm like, that's just a bunch of...
Go to the dermis or the epidermis.
I know. Well,
who told you that?
I don't know where that trend came from, only to tattoo in the epidermis, but pigment performs pretty shitty in the epidermis. It's not meant to be in the epidermis.
You know what? I know exactly where that came from, because it was something that it came about in my cycle of learning about particularly eyeliner. It was the tattooing on the balloon thing. Have you ever seen that? Have you seen that? Or tattooing on a latex?
Yeah, on the balloon. I've seen that.
No. Yeah. First of all, I have massive anxiety about balloons popping, so I could never do it. I tried it one time and I almost had a panic attack.
That's
funny. I was like, never again. But when I was trying to do that kind of super light, it would just not go into the skin, especially for I know we're talking about brows, but for eyeliner, I was like barely touching the surface and like none of the color would go in. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get this?
Yeah, yeah.
So I know it had to do with something with that, like barely brush the surface of the skin. And I'm like, that's not how tattoos work.
No, that's not how it's not how permanent makeup works. It's not how tattoo works. And and I think permanent makeup also is getting it's almost feels like to me it's being absorbed into the beauty industry, like almost as a beauty treatment rather than a tattoo procedure. And which is fine. I mean, I don't really, that doesn't, I don't really have, I'm not going to argue about that. That's fine. But with that said, the techniques being taught, it doesn't allow pigment to perform at its best. You don't get those true rich tones. It falls out quicker. You're having to, touch up more often, which is causing skin damage, skin trauma. So you're much better off implanting into that epidermal area. That's the sweet spot. That's where pigment performs at its very best. And that's what clients want from their PMU artists. If you sat down a client and said, hey, do you want to go over here and have it in the epidermis? It won't bleed. And, be in the epidermis.
Look gorgeous in the after photos.
Look gorgeous in the after photo. It won't be that red. You won't have swelling. It won't bleed. And you can walk out the door. It won't be that dark. You don't have to deal with all that bullshit. But in 6 months to a year, it's going to fall out, Or do you want to come over here and, okay, you might get a little bleeding, might be a little puffy and a little red and irritated. The brow's going to look too dark and too solid. In a week, it's going to look beautiful. But you're going to get 3 to 4 beautiful years out of that brow before you have to come back and see me again. What do you think the client's going to pick?
Oh, yeah, every time.
Every time. Of course, that's what they're going to pick, right? Of course. But so hopefully, but I think what happened, Michelle, a lot of trends like hit the industry at first. And it did get, a lot of beauty people like lash girls, estheticians. We've always had a lot of estheticians pick up permanent makeup, but now we're getting like a lot of beauty people. And so just a lot of the PMU industry is inundated right now, and I just think that in a lot of trends at once. But I think things will settle down, and and even if you are a beauty girl, a lot of the beauty girls are, with their procedures, they're going to get frustrated because their clients are going to start complaining, and once your clients start complaining about your work, then that makes you like, okay, what's going on with my work? I mean, should it be lasting longer? Maybe I should be implanting a little bit deeper, right?
Yeah. It's going to be a learning curve, and as long as they're willing to take the time to ask the questions and go back, hopefully to their mentor. Hopefully their mentor has not just left after they ran out of being able to train because they just don't know how to market to anyone else.
Right.
But hopefully they're able to go back and ask questions and can trust the answers they get and can keep trying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Because I see a lot of talent. I see a lot of talent, like design wise. And, I mean, the brow looks beautiful, but when you blow it up, you can see there's no saturation. You can see it's absolutely tattooed shallow, and it's all going to fall out. And those kind of things show up on the Girlz Inc. board, quite often. I don't know what happened. All the pigment fell out, and of course, when all the pigment falls out, it looks like it's a orange or pink eyebrow because of all the scar tissue. So some of them think, well, the pigment turned pink or orange. They're like, no, there's no pigment there.
Exactly.
That's just scar tissue. That's wounded skin, scar tissue. But I think the ones that end up loving PMU and obsessed with it, obsessed with their work, like they feel it in their bones, this is what they want to do, they're the ones that really end up like figuring it out, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. And I had things to figure out. I mean, I had the opposite effect. I was implanting too deep. And I was just, I was saturating too much, and I was a little heavy-handed. So I had the opposite issue. And, my brows were coming back, and I'd be like, oh God.
It was 100% healed.
Yeah, those are 100% healed. And yeah, maybe you might want to put a little foundation over those suckers. Because they were there. Yeah. And it was god awful for me in the beginning. But then I got into a body tattoo apprenticeship. And I learned whip shading, and I learned bigger needles, and I learned, more advanced techniques, and that issue ended up being solved for me. So, but we all start with issues, I think. Most of us. There might be a lucky small percentage that don't have, major issues when they first start out, but they're the lucky rare. But I think most of us start out, our work's not great. It's either all falling out, we're tattooing too shallow, or we're tattooing too deep, or it's too sad. We all have things to figure out and maneuver around. So yeah, you can't get, upset over it. Just gotta keep at it, man. But I do think that all the misinformation, it makes it more challenging, I think, for the young artist to figure it out and find their way.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially because so many permanent makeup artists take the course and then go out and open their own little studio. I was one of them.
Yeah.
They don't have someone that they work with. A lot of them don't have apprenticeships. A lot of them are flying solo and figuring it out on their own.
Yeah.
So I think we see that a ton. And the more training, the more like accessible training becomes, the more we're going to see people, reaching out to learn it because they want to be good at it, but there just isn't enough time to go over that in a 2 or 3 day course, which, not knocking that, that's what most of my training was in the beginning too, was a 2 or 3 day course.
Yeah. But it's up to the individual to go seek more training and to seek, like if you did a training with an artist that does single needle and, the whip shading technique, then I would encourage that artist, your next training, go sit with a trainer for 2 or 3 days that uses bigger shader needles and does circular movements and has different techniques. Learn the different movements, the different needles, the different techniques. Follow the trainer. Look at their work. How do they answer on the Facebook boards and Instagram? Are they engaging, with other artists? And really vet your trainer. Your trainer, because I do small 3-people groups, but I don't market them all over the place. Some trainers, their marketing is, they must be spending oodles of dollars on their marketing because, they show up in all your feeds and whatnot. But, just because, someone has great marketing, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a great trainer. So, do some research and, ask around and find trainers that are doing different styles, using different needles, different types of pigments, and learn it all.
And I would say that the one thing that I learned about figuring out when we say do research, we usually mean what does their work look like, but what does their healed work look like?
Yeah.
And do they work on multiple types of people, or do they only work on that perfect porcelain model type of skin? Like, what are they showing? Do they have any versatility?
Yeah.
That's what I look when I'm betting something.
Yeah, and that's an important point because a lot, we call them the Instagram brows, right?
Yeah.
And they all look
gorgeous.
They're gorgeous, and they all look like they're 25 years old with perfect skin, and immediately after, the brow doesn't look red, swollen. It looks like it's already healed, but it's fresh. And that's just not reality. It's filters. It's a lot of these Instagram brows. They're actually putting makeup on the red skin. They're hiding the red irritated skin. They're putting, mascara on them. They're dolling them all up. The filters, the editing. There is a shit ton of that going on right now. So, Instagram's like la la land. It's like, but unfortunately, Michelle, we'll get, I hear young artists all the time. They're comparing their own work to that. And I'm like, but that's not real. Nothing's real on Instagram. Even like our day-to-day personal shit. We only post the happy shit. We only post the shit.
It's a highlight reel.
It's a highlight reel, the highlights of your life, right? We don't post like the days we're depressed and feeling shitty or mad or grumpy or, that, I have a whole lot more to post. Anyway. I'd have
my business page there.
Yeah, I'd have a whole lot more content, man, if I was posting that. That's the real moments and days, the real stuff. But that's just not reality. The reality is, that myself included, I was a little running late to get to this Zoom. I had about 20 minutes to woof down a yogurt before I sat down with you because I had an eyebrow client. Linda Saldana, she's been with me 18 years and she's 76 years old and sun damaged skin and texture and all that stuff. And, so you can't do single needle, whip shaded on a client like that. You're not going to use organics on a client like that. Got to have a good stretch, but that's the majority of our clients. The older gals with sun damage, ruddiness, pink, oily, bleeding, non-perfect skin, super flawed skin. That is the majority of our clients. That's the reality. And we have to know how to work on skin like that, all those different skin types like that. And
I agree.
And I wish more people were posting, those type of clients on Instagram. I still seem to see those kind of clients like on my Facebook group, the Girlz Inc. board and more Facebook, but on Instagram, you hardly see clients like that. I mean, everything's, fixed and filtered and young and, that whole kind of look. But I guess that's Instagram. I mean,
well, I understand the concept and why it's done and all of that, but it's not something that is showing us to the clients that are going to make up the majority of people that are going to hire us. So it's like, I can also say that figuring out like which demographic is mostly using Instagram versus which demographic is mostly finding you on Facebook or on Google, that I don't post different photos on different places, but I do choose like different photos for when I'm doing my paid advertisements, depending on which platform I'm doing. So that's a little bit different, but I totally agree that you do tend to see on Instagram mostly the young, the like the unicorn kind of client where you're like, this is going to be amazing and look amazing. And you're going to come back and it's going to be perfectly healed.
Yeah.
Like you do see that on Instagram a lot. Yeah. And on TikTok. Are you on TikTok, Taryn?
Yeah. We've got about 35,000 followers on TikTok. Yeah, we're on
That's
TikTok.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're on TikTok.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know. We do TikTok. We do like, tattoo reel thing. We try to do some funny stuff. I don't know. Our whole thing is like, is the industry going to end up on TikTok? Years ago, you think so? Because it's not really prevalent yet on TikTok.
No, but we all said that about Instagram.
Well, that's what I was just telling. Was I just telling you guys that? I was just having this conversation.
Like, well, what do we need this for? I got photos here. What do we need
that for? Yeah. I was just like saying that to like Willow and Olivia. I'm like, man, I don't want to like not do TikTok because, years ago I was like, Instagram's not going to be a thing. I'm just focusing on Facebook. And then look at Instagram blew up, and then I had to play catch up because everybody else had 50, 60,000 followers and I had like 14.
But that's how all business is. All business and all marketing is always going to ebb and flow with everything. Like it just always is. And if you don't want to keep up with it, you just don't want to be in business, and that's fine. But this is a business. It's not a hobby.
You definitely got to keep up. I think the one thing about TikTok though, that makes it a little bit more difficult is it's a lot of kids. It is a lot of kids, man. A lot of kids. Yeah. And they say a lot of shit. I mean, I get called an emo.
That's exciting.
I come into work and I'm like, I'm Willow, because Willow and Olivia, they're young, right? And so I'm like, okay, you guys, I don't know. Someone called me an emo last night on TikTok, and I don't know what's a fucking emo. Just give it to me. What's an emo?
But you have the people, you have the resources to guide you through it.
Yeah,
but the young ones.
Yeah, and emo ended up not being that bad of a thing, right? It was just like a certain style. Yeah, it's like the gothic kind of, right? Willow, gothic kind of style with dark hair that kind of in the face.
Like punk. It's kind of like punk goth. Like My Chemical Romance.
It's kind of like that. Yeah. So a couple times they call me an emo. A couple times they'll ask me, "Are you a boy? Are you a girl?" But it doesn't piss me off, or anything like that. I can definitely make fun of myself and laugh at myself. I don't take myself too seriously. I've been gay for, my whole life and out and open about it. And so, you just got to take yourself with a grain of salt and find humor in things, because if you don't, your life sure can get you down. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, I feel you.
Well, man, we really went off.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta wrap this up. Usually I like to sign off with like one of my like a saying, like a quote, like something positive or a really good quote. So I know I'm like catching you off guard here, but do you want to close us? Give our listeners like maybe one of your favorite quotes, a saying that like has stuck with you for the years, or just something.
It's a great question.
I'm asking you because I don't have one ready.
I know you're really putting me on the spot. I want to say that it's a Mark Twain quote.
Okay.
And I don't know the exact wording for it, but it helps me keep things in perspective. It's something along the lines of, who's the bigger fool, the fool or the person arguing with the fool?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not going to argue with people who are going to continue to lead me down that path. I'm gonna trust my gut on a lot of these things.
But that's a good saying, and I think you worded it pretty well. Yeah, who's the bigger fool, the fool or the one that argues with the fool? Yeah, I think, and I think that's worded pretty right on the money. But that's good, and you get nowhere, right? And you know what I find, Michelle, when you stop arguing with the fools, like your life just gets so much more joyful and peaceful.
Very true. Very true. You're not going to convince anybody over
That's
over
right.
the internet.
And who are you really arguing with? People you could really give a shit about anyway. So it's like, why bother? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I know. So hey, this was awesome. I didn't really know how today was going to go. We had never really talked. I was like, we're just going to kind of wing it. She sent me a little bullet point. I'm just going to run with it.
No, but do you remember our the first interaction we had at your powder brows class like 3 or 4 years ago when you made fun of me?
Oh God!
Do you remember,
Did I make fun of you? I know you were in my powder brow class, but I didn't know I made fun of you. I made fun of you
just a little bit, because remember?
Was it the Adam X?
That was me.
Oh God damn it! That was you. Well, of course I'm going to make fun of you.
You're going to make fun of me.
Of course I'm going to make fun of you. Oh, let me just tell. Okay, we're running a little over. I got to tell the story. So you're in my powder brow class, right? And I walk over. Was Mary in that class? No. Yeah. It was a Shades and Strokes class with Mary Richardson, right? I walk over, and your machine's running. And you're running your machine. It's turning off, and I don't see your power box anywhere. And I'm like, well, where's your power source? How the hell you're turning your machine on and off? You're like down there. And I looked down, and you had your Adam X on the goddamn floor, right? And you were hitting the top of the button with your foot. I'm like, oh hell, stop. Hold up, stop, wait a minute.
I was using my foot to turn the dial, because I was like, well, it's a foot pedal. And then I was like, it's a foot pedal, Taryn.
Yeah. I'm like, it is not a foot pedal, Michelle.
It's not a foot pedal, guys.
I have never seen this in my 20 years. I've never seen anybody use the Adam X, put it on the floor, and use their foot. It was hey,
I worked in a tattoo studio, and nobody told me any different.
That's just crazy.
And nobody.
And I think did I make you get it up off the floor? I'm like, you need to stop that right now. It's like this
nobody
is just
nobody said anything. And then when I went back, so I took the class with you, and then I went back and I told my boss, and she was like, you've been doing what? And I was like, you weren't paying attention to me working?
And I noticed right away. Yeah, I know. But hey, the good news is, Michelle, if you ever lost use of your hands, something like that, I mean, you're the one. I would put money on you. You would be able to tattoo with one foot and run that foot pedal with the other foot. Yeah.
Find a way, versatility.
Yeah, versatility. That would be you. You could do that because you worked that Adam X with that big toe like nothing I had ever seen before.
I was wearing shoes. Don't listen to her. Oh You made me sound like I was like naked in the woods or something. I was not. I was just doing what I thought. The internet was not as like profuse with knowledge.
See why you needed a class with me? The universe brought you to me for a reason, Michelle. If nothing else, just to get your goddamn foot off the Adam X.
I didn't need anybody else to make fun of me except for Taryn.
I know. Well, if anyone's going to make fun of you, me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
thank you.
Me.
That's fun.
Because I do like to make fun of people and poke fun, and but with a lot of love and kindness.
Exactly.
Yeah. So hey, girl, thanks for today. I had a blast. I think our listeners are going to really, really enjoy this episode, and I would love to have you back on because today we talked like iron oxides, organics, all about brows. So maybe we could do another couple of segments throughout the year, and maybe our next one could be organics and iron oxides on eyeliner. We could do some lips.
Yeah, I just started using Will Anthony's because Kara taught me how to use it.
All right.
I was like, oh.
So maybe, all right, so hold your thoughts, and then maybe that can be our next podcast. We can talk about, because there's a lot of to talk about when it comes to eyeliners with iron oxides and organics as well. So I'd love to have that conversation with you.
That sounds great. I love it.
All
I'm
right.
looking forward to it.
All right. So, hey, you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us. And stay right there. I'm going to say goodbye to my audience. All right. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. That was Michelle Hefner out of Maryland. And she gave you our quote. So I'm going to leave you with that. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next time on A Tatter-a-fact.